Hello, and welcome to another episode of On the Floor with Wayne and Rob. I'm Wayne Highlander, Director of Sales for Bone Adhesives.
I'm Rob Johnson from Bona Training.
Rob, what's going on?
I don't like it. It doesn't get me pumped up, ready to go.
Well, let's talk about something that will get you pumped up and ready to go.
What's that?
We're going to talk a little bit about something down your lane today, and something that I wholeheartedly believe in. This one sentence that you say all the time that starts every week off, every week that you work, and that sentence is. That's your cue, Rob. It's your cue.
I don't know what I don't know what that sentence is.
Have you been doing floors for 20 years, or you want to? You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, okay. Now I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Man, wow.
Well, you threw me off with that one. All right, Wayne, listen up. Part of the PowerPoint that we do at all our training is there's a slide that says, do you have blank years of experience or 1 year of experience repeated blank many times?
Riveting.
So what I thought we could talk about was when you and I started, and what's some of the things that you're doing differently now compared to, your first 5 or 6 years of sanding floors, where we were just really doing what we were told not to get in any trouble.
That's funny. Doing what you're told not to get in any trouble. There's people that go through life like that. I mean, that, you know what I mean? That absolutely go through life like that.
Just staying out of trouble.
Just staying out of the light of sight. You know what I mean? Just don't get in any trouble. But yeah, I mean, things have changed dramatically since from where we first started to where we are now in the industry. So I think that would be kind of a neat one to talk about. Yeah, I agree.
Now, when you started sanding floors, it was with your uncle Stan, right? Is that who?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Stan is who brought you into the business?
Yep.
And you did a lot. I know you've mentioned it before. The Stan Says stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
You get your little book, Stan Says. But like I said, this show is about things that we've changed, that we thought when we started, that was it. That was from the Holy Grail.
That book at the time when I wrote that was like the Bible for doing floors for me. That was from the most experienced man I knew, been in the trade 50 years. And this was his knowledge direct from him to me. And so important that I wrote it all down. And today, absolutely none of it is valid. Isn't that amazing?
Insane. That's wild. Yeah.
That was the building ground for building blocks for building my business and being a floor man. And none of it is relative or germane today. The only thing is the passion behind it, that it remains the same. Isn't that something?
It's crazy. So your turning point was what?
Education.
Yes.
Yeah. Education, knowing that I was smart enough to know what I didn't know, and things were changing, and I want to make sure that we are, on the cusp of everything, learning the new, and don't get me wrong, I would not say I'm an early adapter. I am skeptical. Well, I told you about I was the last man in America to have an 8-track cassette player. I was one of probably the last 3 men in America that had a VCR with a wire connected to it. Okay. I didn't believe in new technology of this wireless crap. Yeah. That fad. I didn't think cassette tapes were going to be any better than 8-track. So when I tell you that I'm not one to change willy nilly, once I know something works, I mean, that's absolutely true.
I remember standing in the Kmart auto department. Remember Kmart used to have an amazing audio stereo for cars in the automotive department. They had everything, speakers, and I remember standing in a Kmart auto department with a very good friend of mine, Scott Lappies, trying to talk him out of buying a cassette player. He was going to make the jump from 8 tracks to cassette. And I said, Scott, you're insane. First of all, you have to rebuy all of your music. And second off, this is a gimmick. It's a fad. This will never
Hmm.
last. The only thing that will ever be able to, withstand the test of time is 8-track cassettes.
Yeah.
Cassettes will never make it. It will always be 8-track. Literally, I stood there
Wow.
in that thing
Beautiful.
trying to talk him out of, yeah, I was right with you, man. There's no replacing the 8-track cassette. And I know there's people listening to this show who have no idea what we're talking about. There's some people who probably might even have them someplace stored, but I know there's some people out there who are no, never heard of an 8-track cassette.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think there's certain rites of passage when you're a young adolescent growing up. One is your first dirt bike. I mean, when you're, and that's why I'm against kids getting a dirt bike when they're like 7 years old, or like one of these little four-wheel quads when they're like 6 or 7 years old. I'm sorry. There's something about pedaling and pedaling and pedaling, pedaling uphill, pedaling all day, trying to get somewhere on the other side of town and riding that bike forever. You'll never appreciate the wind in your hair, the sound of a motor, the smell of gasoline when you get that first dirt bike, as much as the kid who's had a pedal and a bicycle for years. And another one is a great stereo system in your car. You know what I mean? I mean, I remember the old JBLs and some of the other good stereo. Pioneer was another one. When you were a kid, you couldn't wait to get a good stereo system. You could crank as loud as you wanted. Um, so yeah, but things change, and like I say, technology changes, and so I was always willing to change if I saw a good reason behind it. I do credit Daniel Boone because he's another one that I respected, like I respected my Uncle Stan. Um, and that's probably the genesis for a lot of the changes and things that I did.
I agree though. My turning point was my first NWFA school.
Hmm.
That's when I was just blown away. And like I said, the first I have said it a million times on the show. The first 2 days of that class, I was just, everybody's stupid and everybody's doing everything wrong.
Yeah.
Until I saw a guy buffing Stain on, and then ever since then, every training that I've ever been a part of, I know I'm going to walk away with something. So definitely, education is right up there. But here are some of mine that I do completely different now than I did maybe, let's say, the first 10 or 12 years of my floor sanding career. And the first one right off the bat, the first one I started to write this down, the first one that hit me was how I dispose of stain rags now compared to how we used to dispose of stain rags.
Hmm. What did you do initially?
I used to ball them up and shove them deep down into a bag of dust.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Wow, did you get lucky?
Oh, well, we had a couple of dust bag fires, but it never dawned on me that it was stain rags.
Hmm.
Ever. I mean, until I really started to teach and really started, it was one of those things that I heard a million times. Oh, stain rags, start the fire, stain rags. And then, I really jumped online and started reading about it and what, the whole thing that happens with the oxidation because the air is taken away and the oxidation leads to spontaneous combustion. And I was like, my God, this is just unbelievable stuff. So I would say that's right up there on the top of my list.
Well, I'll start with finishing for me. I count rolling as the best thing I've ever learned is for finishing. And we brushed everything with a 6-inch brush for years. I mean, years and years, because that was to me the most quality technique you could get. That was as clean as it got to coat a floor. 6-inch pretty brush, keep it in the jacket when you were done, and take care of it. Get a comb it out when you're done. And actually, there's nothing dirtier than a brand new brush. You ever buy a new brush off the shelf and take a brush comb and comb through it and see how filthy they're filthy. But when I learned how to roll, I mean, and believe me, we went through the sequence of rolling in T-bar and lamb's wool before T-bar and all the whole 9 yards. By a landslide, rolling was the best thing I ever learned about finishing. And it's not for every job. I'm the first to say it's not for every job, but it is an amazing technique. And I think the quality of a rolled floor is better than a brush floor.
So you brushed all your floors when you first started? You and Stan?
Probably for
Everything was brush.
15 years I brushed.
That's it. 6-inch brush, nothing else.
Yep. Get a wide stance, get your bucket, get low to the ground. Sometimes you'd rest your forearm on your left leg where the bucket was held when you got tired, and brushed everything.
Wow. No lamb's wool applicators for you, huh?
No, we went from the brushing to lamb's wool, and lamb's wool could do a good job. I mean, sometimes a fantastic job, but you can never really trust them 100%. You know what I mean? From shedding. So when we got one broken in, I said before, we throw them in the washer dryer to get as much of the fuzz off it. We put it on the block. Take a cigarette lighter to hit all the ends for the fuzziness stuff on the ends. Clean them up again. Once you got one broken in, it goes through the sequence of being on seal coats first, or the first coats, and then you could trust it on the finish coats, and then you'd ball it up and put it in a can afterwards. You don't have to have poly in it to keep it good. Just keep the lid closed on the can, and that thing would last forever. And you would never want to break in a new one. So
no, we used to keep them right in the bucket of polyurethane.
Mm-hmm.
The last thing you wanted to do was put a new one on there. Another one of mine was how we store dust, especially in backpack vacuums. We had 2 backpack fires, all from storing dust inside of not emptying the backpack and keeping that in the truck, and still never figuring out why, we had backpack fires until, one day it dawned on us that the motors get hot as the machine gets used, and that dust gets hot, melts a hole in the side of the plastic of the backpack, and once that hole gets melted, dust starts falling out, air starts going in. So, but we never really figured it out, even when it was happening to us.
You're a regular pyromania, weren't you?
Yeah. Yes. Absolutely.
Yeah. You should have walked around in a flame retardant suit with all the stuff you were doing. What it took me later in life to learn on the small jobs, on the installation jobs, like I'd say 300 square feet and under, is just bid them for pre-finished floors. Just do a pre-finished floor with them. That if you have to go back as many times as you have to install and sand and finish, you drop it off to acclimate it, you come back to install it, and then you got to come back and sand it and stain it and maybe get the first coat on it. Then you got to come back, put the subsequent coats on it. On some jobs, it just makes sense to put a pre-finished floor in, and that's coming from a guy who my whole background and passion is with unfinished flooring. When you start doing the math, for me, it just makes more sense. Unless you can sometimes you can schedule jobs around the same area. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Same part of the woods, same part of town. So then in that case, it makes sense. In the morning, boom, hit this one, put a coat on because you're working right down the road, and then in that case, it does make sense. But I learned smarter ways of looking at the jobs financially.
That's a good one. I like that one. Smaller jobs, go with pre-finished. So what were you, like under 200 feet?
I'd say like under 200, 300 square feet, especially if it was out there, if I was any travel involved at all. But here's another thing, and I'll put this down as another one, and it's charged more money. But it's, these people today, when I see the amount of money that these guys are charging today, sometimes it's unreal to me what they're able to get. So we do, we complain about, oh, it's hard to get help and what have you, and there's those type of things. But let's face it, if we're being honest, guys today are charging, I mean, what we would say is crazy amounts of money to do this, which I think is phenomenal, fantastic. I mean, that is always the goal. But so yeah, with that in mind, I mean, there are times where the guys today, I hear guys today are traveling, they'll do that 300 square foot job because they'll charge an astronomical amount of money for it, and it's worth it for them. So you got to pick your poison, one or the other. You have to charge appropriately, and the guys that are just not afraid to charge and don't feel guilty about charging whatever are making an absolute killing. And I think it's fantastic because it's hard work and you need to.
You ever been on jury duty?
No, I've always got out of it.
I have finally. I've done everything to get out of it, and now I have to go tomorrow. I have to go to jury duty tomorrow on a grand jury. I have no idea what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
But I've been ducking it for a while, and now finally, I thought for sure you were going to have a good jury duty story.
No, but I have a courtroom story.
Let's hear it.
One of my relatives was assaulted by somebody badly. Okay. So that person's father wanted me to go to court with them in support of this person. That was, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And this guy was going to come up for the first appearance in court. Okay. Got the overalls on, the orange jumps, the overalls that they give you, whatever. And, it's like 10 or 12 guys there. Right. And one would come out and they give what his offense was. And so anyhow, this guy comes out and my cousin taps me like, yeah, that's the guy who did it. Right. So I'm sitting up right up front. So the universal sign where you go, I mean, I'm staring at this guy like hard, right? Because, my cousin got assaulted. And I, the taking the finger under the neck sign, you know what I mean?
The thumb like this, the universal, I'm going to kill you sign.
Yeah.
You're a dead man sign.
So anyhow, as discreetly as I could to the sheriffs that were there, I do that sign to him, right? So then he does a double take and looks at me. So I do it again. And I'm not smiling, let's say, right? So he looks around the courtroom again and he kind of looks back at me again. I do it again for like a third time, right? So then the judge reads his offense. Dude was there for DUI. It was the wrong guy.
You gotta love it.
So, whoops. Oh, well, you shouldn't drink and drive. All right. So,
he'll never drink and drive again. There's some crazy guy out there wants to kill me over it.
Especially around me. You know something? I just saw in the news today, sperm banks are no longer taking, say, donations from red-headed people.
That's not true.
God strike me dead.
That cannot be true.
I'm going to send it to you. Yeah.
So what are you going to do?
Well, I never
did. Shave your head. Shave your head and your mustache. Shave it all. They'll never know.
See, what are you going to do? Like I was donating.
Go in with long sleeves.
No.
Yeah, we got to have another Wayne Highlander in the cooker.
All right, I'm going to send you this information. Okay, go ahead.
Isn't that some serious discrimination doing that?
That's what I said. Yeah. Okay. Another thing that I changed down the road is I've said it before, but we used to hand sand everything, and even if you broached the topic of bringing in an orbital sander, it was a big time no for us. Like you were lazy even asking about it. We would just not even hear about it. You had to hand sand to get it to blend the best and everything, and we thought that's the way it had to be done. That's the way I was taught. That's the way we just would not, and we held on to that for years and years and years and years. Yeah. You know something? Some of the best risers, if you ever get a stair treads and risers, do a set of stair treads and risers, and you're doing the risers now, and you're going back similar color. You know the way that we used to do the risers oftentimes? Hand sand it with 36 grit sandpaper. Believe it or not. Break it up, hand sand it real good with 36 sandpaper, and then restain it, and they would look sensational. Yep.
That's it. 36, nothing else.
36 grit sandpaper. Break it all up. We're going back pretty close to the same color. And my brother John showed me that on the job one time, and I went, "Oh man, I can't even believe this. It looks fantastic." And you can't always do that, but if you're going close to the same color, and a lot of time risers, they don't put a lot of finish on to begin with because it's gonna run, so they get thin coats. So yeah. So anyhow,
there you go. One of my big ones that changed was no more 3680 or 4080.
Yeah, skipping grits.
Good. Yeah, skipping grits. That just meant nothing to us back then. I look back now at things that we did, and that was that I think was one of our bigger mistakes.
Yeah.
But I always make the joke we got away with a lot because everything was, 4080 satin poly and bad lighting, not anything that anybody gets anymore to work with.
Mm-hmm. So I think one thing makes you a really good instructor is that you've gone through all that for all those years, because you do such a good job in the classes and illustrating why that doesn't work and why you shouldn't do that. And I actually was never really guilty of that. I always said someone could go a whole career of sanding floors and never buy sandpaper if they were my friends, because on the belts, I changed when I got to the belts. But when I ran my drum sander, I probably changed my paper way more often than I needed to. On the belts, whenever I took a belt off, I would take a red Sharpie on the inside of the belt. I would write how many square feet I sanded with it. You know what I mean? If I say I did 300 square feet with it or whatever, I'd take a red Sharpie and I'd write 300 square feet on the inside. So I know, okay, I've got pretty good life left to this. And I did take care of my belts. I really did take care of my belts, and I put them back properly, and I didn't store them on concrete and those type of things. So to get the most life out of my belts. And that's one thing that I would do towards the end of my career. I did not start as aggressively as when I first started doing floors, going with the 36 grit or whatever. I mean, I think the advances in sandpaper, certainly Bowna Green. I hear a lot of good feedback about Bowna Green on the chatter on the Facebook flooring groups. That is a beast of a sandpaper, man. And where I normally would maybe start with the 36 grit, I'd go down to 50 grit all day long with that sandpaper. So
yep,
that's
I
agree
with you there. That was definitely one of the changes I made too. I start everything now with 50, no matter what.
50 was always my go-to.
50.
Yeah.
But in the old days, it was almost everything we started with 24.
Wow.
I know. I think about things. It's crazy.
Yep. The milling is better than it ever has been. I think we can thank Pergo for that and Wilson Art. The milling of those products were phenomenal. And so I think a lot of American mills changed their knives and everything and started milling the floors better. And the milling is way better than it ever has been. And so I think that's changed as well. That's why in the old days, the machines were set up the way they were set up, to cut heavy to one side.
Yeah, heavy cut, feather cut. And we're going to talk about that in another podcast. Absolutely. Another one of mine. God, this one makes me sick. How many places I use liquid nails and Elmer's glue for starter rows, treads, closeout rows, molding. Oh man, I just can't believe it.
Yeah. Liquid nails has no place in this industry. It just doesn't. I mean, we don't want to call out manufacturers by name, but I'll even say something, Rob. We make a product called Vertical Nail, and I will give you your money back if you try it and don't like it on this one scenario. For the first board that you put down, you install the first board. It is phenomenal when you use Bona Vertical and then put it down on that first road in your chalk line, the first board, and then wait about 10, 15 minutes or whatever and see how rock hard that is that you can start kicking off of and install. It's fantastic. Fantastic. I told my brother John this. I would not leave the warehouse again without having some with me because it works I've never seen one work better. I'll say that. Costs a little bit more sometimes, but man, what you'll get in return is it's a fantastic product.
We did a school. Well, we did the Flow launch a couple weeks ago, and then in New Jersey, and then last week I had another class there, and Jeff Ofredo built that wall, that little wall that I think a 3x4 wall.
Yeah,
and we threw a couple of competitors' adhesives up there for a vertical, for doing a wall, and then we threw ours up. It was unbelievable. I mean, there really is no. I was pretty shocked how it was just the other two were just running and falling off, and I was just about to say, and your adhesive it never moved. But I guess now that you're a director, I can call it your adhesive. Your vertical never moved.
We put one up, and I thought, wow, it solded really good too. So maybe this is not going to be so impressive. But then I bumped a little bit. It just immediately fell right off. So it is a winner. It doesn't sag. I mean, I agree with you. The technology there's light years ahead of what it was.
But that little demo right there, that's the way to demo that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That is definitely the way to demo that stuff.
Yep. So those are some things that I changed over the years. But I got a question for you, Rob. Say you're on a job, and say it's 2,500 square feet. Okay, you're doing it by yourself, and would you go through and sand the entire floor first with a big machine and get all that done first, and then move on to do all the edging, and then move on to do all the hand scraping? How would you break that up?
I would do all of one and then all of the edging. Yeah, I wouldn't go. And I know that's exact opposite of what my son does. My son will drum a couple rooms, jump back, edge. Then he'll go and he'll drum some more rooms, jump back and edge. The few jobs that I did where I had to be alone, oh God, I hated that. But I would do all the drumming and then jump back and do the edging.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
You?
No way. I would not do that.
Complete opposite.
And I don't know what would make them, productivity wise, what makes the most sense, but I wouldn't leave a day for me of all edging or a day of all scraping and oscillating the edges or anything like that. I would prefer to just get one room pretty much done and move on to the next one, to a point, depending on the square footage of the job. What would you say if you were partners with a guy and he says, Wayne, I'll go there on I can't work Saturday, but I'll get there on Friday, and then I'll work all day Friday, and then when you get there, he did all the big machine work, all of it, and he left you with the stairs, the hand sanding, and the or not hand sanding, but the oscillating sanding and the hooking.
Well, I don't know if you should ask me that, but maybe we could ask my old partner Pete. That'd be a great question to ask Peter. Yeah.
So you'd be okay with a guy you guys got to get this job done together, and the first day he goes in there and he spends the entire day just running the big machine. You'd be okay with that?
Yeah. Matter of fact, I remember distinctly one day. I think I might have been even starting a third cut with the big machine, and he came in because he was doing something else or wherever he was, and he was like, "So were you ever gonna run the edger, or are you just gonna keep big machining right to the very end?"
Right. Yeah.
We should have Pete on the show or Bum just to ask them. What do you think when Rob did that, or your dad did that too?
Yeah. I mean, you don't think that's a problem?
Not for me.
Yeah, but let's say if you were the other guy,
I admitted it. I came clean.
yeah, so you know it's not right. You said you admitted it. That's not the right thing to do. All
Hmm.
right,
But I did it.
it don't make it right.
I'm not saying I was right. I'm just saying. What would you think of a guy?
Okay, I think he
Thought
was
he
a
was pretty damn
scumbag.
smart. Yeah. Oh, that's a bad word. Don't use that word.
Scumbag?
Yeah, that's a bad. You gotta stay away from
Oh,
that
that's
one.
that's offensive. But you going in there and doing that
Yeah.
whole thing, that's not offensive.
Try to go dirtbag or a terrible thing to do. Whatever. Stay away from the. My father-in-law heard me say that one day, and he pulled me aside
Hmm.
and told me what that really meant. And ever since that day, I was like, okay, if it was enough to piss him off, I am never going to use that word again.
You know what? Don't say piss him off, because that's offensive to me. I don't know what scumbag means other than dirtbag.
I'll explain it to you later.
You just made it too weird now. Now I
I'll
can't
explain it to you
use it.
later. We can't talk about it on the show.
Well, I can't
I
can't
know
leave.
there's a lot of people that throw that word around. I'll explain it to you later.
I don't even want to know what it means.
Uh,
Well, you know what it means? Let me look it up. Hang on, real
don't
quick.
don't. Not on the
Oh,
show.
oh, oh, no, I got it. It means a guy that will go in with a sander and sand the entire job without getting off his on his knees and edging when it's appropriate to edge.
Okay, that's me.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay.
You know another one, another big one that I've completely changed on? Respect dry times and cure times.
Hmm.
It's amazing how many tacky floors that I screened or floors that I knew just weren't ready just because. And it goes with another one of slow down. My God, it was everything we did back in the old days. We were just constantly rushing. It was just everything was about the speed. And part of that was not respecting dry and cure times on products.
You know, I was pretty good about that, but there are times too that I rolled the dice. And I wasn't at the time saying, well, yeah, I had to know it was rolling the dice a little bit. You know, you weighed the odds and you think to yourself and you try to talk yourself into that, oh, it's dry, it should be dry. You know, we did everything by the book and it should be dry, blah, blah, blah. But in your heart of hearts, you know, it smells a little bit too strong. Under your foot, it feels little bit tacky. Or you know what I mean? Or you put the
Yeah,
rag down.
if you can't wear your shoes and you're walking around the edge of the floor not to make footprints that see people can see, then
Mhm.
maybe you shouldn't be on the floor.
Well, no, except for the one last thing that kind of I was thinking about when we were getting ready to do our podcast today. You know, it seems like every time in my career that I threw something out, you know, like I've been sitting on this feature strip for a long time now. It's been a year and a half, 2 years. We've never used it. I've been sitting on this special cut of wood that, you know what, it was a special custom job, and it's been years now. It's taken up space. You'll never need it again until you throw it out.
Until you throw it away.
And then when you throw it away, a certain job will come up where you could have used it and what have you. So, yeah, if
Well, you know the old saying, being a floor man means never having to throw anything away.
yeah, I mean, you're almost like a hoarder in some ways. Um, but yep.
I love going into some guys' old shops, guys who are, generational type guys. And I'll always ask, where's your museum? Where's your museum? Where do they keep all the old equipment
Hmm.
stuff? It's just so funny. Some of the pieces of equipment that you'll see in some of these and they're never going to use it again, but they
Yeah,
never throw it away.
yeah.
It's always there. 8-inch drums with wood handles. I
What?
mean, just chain driven machines,
Fuses
crazy
on.
stuff.
Yep. I guess another one for me, Rob, is as I would have jumped on a power station a lot earlier in my career, just to make life easier. once we did, it was like, gosh, it's one of those things where when you finally do it, you think, gosh, why didn't I just do this a long time ago? It would have made life so much easier. I sold a power station one time to somebody. He was a gym contractor. This wasn't one of ours, a bonus product. This is one that was made by a local company. That was a really, really, really nice machine. I got into sales, so I didn't need it anymore. I did not want to sell it. I would have it today, but this guy was in a jam, and I sold it to him for a steal. And he didn't. I don't think he still appreciated what I was giving him. And my only rule is, look, if you don't need any more, if you ever go to sell it, just let me buy it back to you for the same price. And he said, yeah, okay. So he hasn't. I hope he's getting good use out of it. But I would never have parted with that damn thing. That was a lifesaver at times. So.
Hey, a little heads up on running machines with a power station, especially when you're going over 100, 150 feet. Sometimes you're running a lot of cord. Always run the power station 50 feet away from your machine. So let's say you got to go 150 feet. So you plug into your box, run 100 feet of cable into your power station, then boost up your power or regulate the power, whatever you need to be, up or down. And then that last 50 goes to the machine. Too many people put the power station, right under the box, too close to the power source. And then there's a lot of draw heading out to your machine. So just a heads up, always run that machine 50 feet away. That last 50 feet is from power station to the machine.
Yeah, good call. And you just reminded me, as you're saying that, another thing that I was always a pain for me is the cable connections, making sure they're all universal, that every van has got the exact same cable connections on. Then if you show up to a job and you got to get on a guy's edge or whatever, that somehow you need a cord or whatever, that they all match up. I can't tell you one day that the meltdown that I had, that I brought everybody in and said, this, I don't care what it costs. I want all these connections to be exactly the same everywhere you go, bar none. Because it's makes life easier.
Now, Peter and I had that game with all of our air tools.
Same. Yeah.
Different fittings on different. No, that hose, orange hose goes with this gun. Yeah. Black hose goes with this. And no, you can't plug that in there. And then finally, one day I said, this is insane what we're doing. I mean, it's insane. And I literally took 3 hours out of the day, and everything was because, you're trying to finish and you're switching guns and things like that. And you're like, oh no, I can't use this. I got to use that. It just felt a little, we can do better, I thought.
Yeah. The craziness. All right, Rob, you got any more?
No, let's wrap it up.
Good stuff. All right, I appreciate it, Rob. Thank you very much. There's some great tips, and there's a really good tip on the power station. I forgot about that one, so that's a good one. So there you go. This has been another episode of On the Floor with Wayne and Rob. I'm Wayne. Please stay tuned for another episode.
Let's try that one again.
All right. Rob, thank you for your limited input. This has been another episode of On the Floor with Wayne and Rob. Please stay tuned for another episode.
See how much better you do when you throw a little insult in there?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what you need to do.